when she was 3 weeks old, she stopped breathing in our lounge. I was alone with her at home. I had a seizure. I wasn't driving, but there I was throwing her in the car. She was grey, coughing, spluttering, had one hand on her in the back seat, one hand on the wheels, making sure she was still warm, and raced her into hospital and literally threw her into the pediatrician's arms. And she spent the next 6 weeks in hospital trying to figure out what was wrong, because common things occur commonly. Rare disease kids, more than 30% of them don't see their 5th birthday. Can you imagine that journey as a parent? I had this white picket fence idea of my life, and I really thought that everything was perfection. Everything fell apart as I was crowned Mrs. South Africa. It was the greatest, most tumultuous midlife crisis you could possibly imagine. The house, the career, the marriage, the family, the white picket fence, the everything that you thought was so important to life. If I could go back now and shake that version of myself and say, you have no idea how good life is going to be, I would. Key to success in life is not that you're faster or stronger or smarter or more good looking or more privileged. It's that you just held on a little bit longer.
Nicole Capper, welcome to the Blue Room. Just a little bio. What I like to do is go into Insta and swipe a couple things off there. So you've got City Boss, Times, or Cross Farm Mom. Pretty apt for you. And very, very interesting and diverse. Pharmacist, Survivor South Africa, Mrs. South Africa, and GM of Humans. I mean, I know humans very, very well, and we'll get into that just now, but that is just 4 completely different things. You know, Miss South Africa shouldn't be on Survivor.
I think that's maybe why I did it, right? Is this need to challenge those stereotypes that we so easily accept. I wanted to do something really tough and challenging, and at the time I was very shy and a tomboy, so I thought, okay, what's the opposite of that? And I happened to scroll, just like you did,
Yeah.
and I found Mrs. South Africa. A friend of mine was doing it, and I actually went cold watching it, and I thought, imagine I did something like that. And the thought didn't leave me for a few days, and I just thought, stuff it. And there's a lot of context to that stuff it decision, which we can maybe unpack.
We can.
In the same vein, once you've suddenly wearing a crown and there's a beauty queen, what is the next thing you could do to challenge that? I didn't want to be a beauty queen. I wanted to do something significant. So to break that mold, let's go and get dirty on Survivor.
I must admit, of all the shows, Survivor was the one I really wanted to do. Never even thought about it more than that, but it was something that spoke to me. I think it's just the, competing, and I think it was the social aspect. Well, when I say social, I suppose the mental aspect of a social environment where you've got your friends and foes and people are backstabbing and lying, and it's that sort of outwit, outlast type thing. So what came first, Mrs. South Africa and then Survivor?
That's it.
Okay, so the first time I remember seeing you was actually on Survivor. And when was that?
That was 2019.
Okay, so quite a while ago. And then I think things probably just kind of snowballed from there. I think you probably got a lot more confidence. You start to do a lot more, I'm assuming, speaking roles, emceeing events and stuff like that. How did you end up at Humans? And maybe explain what Humans is. I know what it is, but it's a very interesting business.
It is. It's become a passion of mine. I think starting off in a career that you don't love, it was something that I fell into because I was interested in medicine and I needed I think what was recommended at the time was a family conscious job where you could go and do something and spend afternoons with the kids. I love my kids and spending time with them. However, I evolved and got goals in my life. And being a pharmacist, standing behind a counter is a very noble profession, and I know a lot of great pharmacists, but I was a creative on the inside that had never been let out, never experienced that freedom of expression. And I started to taste it. So I was working in a operations environment. I was handling warehouse and pre-packaging, and every now and then the company I worked for would host seminars to inform doctors and educate and train, and they develop training materials around it and marketing materials, and I just fell in love. And I started leaning into that side of the business more and more, started self-teaching, reading up, learning, studying, and I just decided I have to make a change. And rather now than in 5 or 10 years, every year, I think with growing responsibilities, it always becomes harder to redefine yourself, purely from a financial point of view, right? So I did. I literally walked away and started small social media ad hoc consulting here and there, literally like uh,
Just winging it.
just winging it. And I think because I value education and I come from a background with as a qualified pharmacist and still a registered pharmacist because I value it so much, I started studying. So then the first thing I did was operations management, very important. I also went and studied strategic communications. And I think what I really learned in that process is that I'm enough, that you can study all the things you want in the world if it just gives you permission to exist where you should be.
We were talking about earlier how, you know, you start off doing one thing and it just kind of kills your soul. And it doesn't mean it's any better. Usually people would see that change as a step backwards, either from an education perspective or a job or career path. But I mean, I don't know the sort of timelines of it, but, you know, we've all had our hurts, traumas, whatever it may be. You got divorced at a stage, you had kids, your daughter was sick. You know, it was probably a lot. Was this at the same sort of time?
It was the greatest, most tumultuous midlife crisis you could possibly imagine. Maybe a little early, right?
Yeah.
30's a bit young.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's actually when I had mine. Like, you know,
really?
when I had 40, it
Yes.
didn't bother me in the slightest. But turning 30, I felt like there was a lot I hadn't achieved yet, or life goals or life sort of steps, you know, getting married, having kids, all of those things. I hadn't got there yet, or I was getting close to. And it just it plays in your mind. So, you know, when you make a change, it's a big change. And kind of at that stage, I made the choice to, you know, change towns, change this, change that. And it was a lot of things at once, but you got to kind of dive in head first.
I'll never forget, and I never chose it. And I owe a lot of thank yous to the situations and the people that made me choose. I didn't have a choice. I had everything ripped out from underneath me in a blindsided moment that I could never have anticipated. Not in my wildest dreams. And I was smart. I'm
Yeah.
smart. And I was chatting to my brother. I was standing on a beach on the phone in shards of myself. I was falling apart. And I just said, I am going to lose everything. And in one moment of clarity, he just said, he paused and he said, Max, what's everything?
It was material.
What am I going to lose?
Mm.
What is that that's so important? How am I defining myself? And all of those things, the house, you lose the house, the career, the marriage, the family, the white picket fence, the everything that you thought was so important to life. If I could go back now and shake that version of myself and say, you have no idea how good life is going to be,
Yeah.
I would. But I'm lucky I've got good people in my life to guide me.
Well, a lot of people see that as like their kind of rock bottom, but it's only once you start finding your way again, you realize that it actually wasn't that bad. I said to myself, I went through quite a bad period the last 2 years or 3 years. The last year has been amazing. Everything's just gone incredibly well. Um, I kept seeing it as like my rock bottom. I kept saying to myself, "You're gonna look back one day and go, it wasn't that bad," even though it was. There's always something better. And I think you touched on it. Surround yourself with really good people. It help you pull yourself out of any tough situation.
It's really spot on. And I think it's something I talk about all the time is resilience and grit. It's one of my core pillars is the key to success in life is not that you're faster or stronger or smarter or more good looking or more privileged. It's that you just held on a little bit longer, a little bit more fight in you than the people that were falling to the wayside left and right. And when I chat to people on a bigger scale, I try and leave them with one last thought. I hope you face pain.
Yeah.
I hope you face an immense amount of pain that shakes you to your core and changes you and forces you to make healthy decisions and to grow and to evolve. And it's hard, but like all of your best growth, best decisions, right, Cams, come from those moments of pain.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you use that as your kind of yardstick when you seek or find some sort of success. you sort of delve back to where you were. I just want to jump around a little bit. So
Sure.
I didn't realize that your daughter had been really sick and had a rare disease when she was young. So our lovely researcher delved into all of this, and we just want to chat through, because I'm sure there's a lot of parents, and I hope there aren't that many, but there's a lot of parents. I know as a dad, and I'm even talking about when your child's got the sniffles, there's nothing worse as a parent as having a sick child, because you just feel useless because you're not a doctor. You can't help. Everything else, you feel such an amount of gratitude when you can help your child with something, no matter how big or small it is. But when you find out your daughter was sick, I mean, was it just like the sucker punch?
Like I said, I mean, I had this white picket fence idea of my life, and I really thought that everything was perfection. And then you get told, well, you've got a boy and you have a girl on the way. It's like your pigeon pair. You can almost strut like a pigeon. Not that it even matters. I
Yeah.
mean, the person that I was, I would give a piece of advice to parents, planning parents. Don't have kids unless you're prepared to have 6 kids. Like, we just walk through life assuming and hoping and faithing that our lives are going to be perfect. But statistically, you're going to run into a whole lot of odds, and you might just be a parent of a sick kid. And that might be, I mean, rare disease kids, more than 30% of them don't see their 5th birthday.
Mm.
Can you imagine that journey as a parent? You're a parent. Anyway, so I was never ready for it. I wish I was. And when she was 3 weeks old, she stopped breathing in our lounge. I was alone with her at home. I had a Caesar. I wasn't driving, but there I was throwing her in the car. She was grey, coughing, spluttering, had one hand on her in the back seat, one hand on the wheel, just making sure she was still warm. And raced her into hospital and literally threw her into the pediatrician's arms. And she spent the next 6 weeks in hospital trying to figure out what was wrong, because common things occur commonly. That's what
Yeah.
doctors would say, is that it must be something common, and we'll fix it and we'll figure it out. And nothing we did worked. And eventually they decided to test for cystic fibrosis. And I knew nothing about it. Being a pharmacist, you'd think that I would. But
Yeah.
all I knew is it was that depressing illness where you see the kid in hospital all the time wearing a mask in the bottom end of the corridor through the glass. And I fell apart. I mean, when you sit down and your pediatrician holds your hand and starts tearing up,
Yeah, they're supposed to be the strong one.
I was never ready for that moment. I thought that I had life completely figured out. And if I could have taken it onto me, I would have.
Mm.
And now suddenly this person who didn't even ask to be born now has a fight they didn't ask for, and that I can't take away from them.
Yeah.
And I knew it was the reason I studied pharmacy. I had to be a pharmacist, had to be a doctor, had to be a physio, her OT, her nutritionist, her psychologist, help her through life, whatever that life might look like. At that stage, we had no idea. And I don't know why, but I did have a moment of clarity. Standing in ICU, cradling this little life that was now completely dependent on me. Well, the thought was, there's only one thing she actually needs from me.
Yeah.
So that was my crisis, was right then, because I had this, like, those massive movie moments and you zoom out and you can see yourself from the corner of the room. I was like, I'm not that. I'm hiding. I'm insecure. I'm terrified.
But you have to be strong for her.
I have to. I have to be an example. Okay, what am I going to do? And then from that moment on, I was questioning, do I have big, scary, ambitious, hairy goals? Am I going out and working hard every day? The answer to both of those was no.
So that must have changed as a person, because I think you got into raising funds for chalk and mountaineering, and maybe that was the start of your crazy adventures. Because I've been telling a lot of people, like, I can't wait to interview you, because I call you, but I mean this in the nicest way. I'm like crazy Nicole, because you probably have one of the biggest personalities I've ever seen, and it's infectious.
Thank you.
So it sucks to hear that you've been through that, but everyone goes through their shit. It's differing types, but I mean, how do you find balance between being at that time a mother in survival mode and then Nicole, the entrepreneur, the public figure, because you're basically wearing two masks, multiple actually, because maybe in the business world you have to be this powerhouse, and you get home, you got to be a little bit more gentle and soft.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really believe in balance. I believe to do anything significant in your life, you need to be out of balance in areas for short periods of time. Ultimately, we all want this utopian balance, and you will find that you achieve it at certain parts of your life fleetingly, right? But it's not growth. And I became obsessed with growth. And I think that I was waiting for permission for somebody to set me free. I really believe that for my whole life up until that point, I was very happy to play the role that I assumed because that was what I was taught growing up. That is a woman's place. And I would have done it until I died. It was this loyalty. I still have it. I'm incredibly loyal. I'll fight for somebody and go to war with someone until the death. But it was to my own detriment. I locked myself in this cage that I would never have gotten out of. And that's why I owe everything to my kids. I owe everything to my daughter's condition. I owe everything to the people who betrayed me and caused me immense amounts of pain. But we all deal with grief in difficult ways because I launched into activity. And in that, it was cathartic. It was healing. I felt there was a purpose for it. I had to assign purpose to this.
Yeah.
And, not everybody does that. I think certainly why our marriage fell apart. We got divorced everything fell apart as I was crowned Mrs. South Africa. In the following few months, I think I'm the earliest divorced Mrs. South Africa of all time.
It's a good record to have.
Winning in life, right? I've embraced failure at its core. And that journey of like everything falling apart then was really, really hard. Hey, like I minimize it now and I can joke about it. And I think I often minimize other people's trauma because of what I've been through and overcome. It's like there is nothing that is insurmountable.
Mm.
Then no failure is ever fatal unless it's death. And then
The
it's
only
not really a
absolute
failure.
one.
It is the only absolute
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because you're talking about balance just now. And it's something I always strive for. I know exactly what I need to do, but I feel like as soon as I get, let's say there's 5 aspects of balance for me. As soon as I get 4 of them out, the one just falls off completely. So you're always trying to plug a hole, but you're right. And it resonates with me. It's growth. And that's exactly what it is. So I want to get to this climbing mountains thing because I didn't know about this. So Kilimanjaro and Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
Okay. What personal mountains have you climbed greater? I think we've touched on some. Have there been more? Because it's sometimes, especially when you're going through a specific trauma, it often feels people like, oh, things happen in threes or whatever it may be. But it often feels like everything gets thrown at you at the same time to see if you're going to sink or swim.
I love mountains. Mountains are my soul energy. If I'm moody at home, my husband just says, babe, you need a mountain. It's a place of freedom. It's a place of achievement. It's a place of struggle. It's never predictable. No mountain is ever the same twice on 2 different days. And I mean, out of all the incredible adventures I've been on through the Alps, ice axing through the glaciers, I've been able to do climbing on most of South Africa's highest peak in every province. And taking people with me was even more fulfilling. That was amazing. I really enjoy. One of my highlights was taking the Lions cricket team up to the highest point in South Africa as part of their team building activity. They did not enjoy it as much because the year before they were at the Lost City. They were at the Palace. So, the Palace and 60 kilometers over 5 days.
Not fun.
They set me up for failure there. The answer to your question is that's easy. Physical mountains any day. And it makes you feel like a hero. And I think that's why I love taking people there, is because it feels so hard physically. You just keep walking, in actual fact. You literally just don't stop walking. You stop and breathe and you keep walking. And at the end of the day, you can point at a physical point and say, I went there with my own 2 feet. And it's huge.
It's
Like,
an
this Scotland is
achievement.
a beast.
So
But it's nothing, Cam. Like, that is nothing. Facing real life any day of the week is harder than a mountain.
Mm,
And there's lots of parallels that we can draw, but I think it's important to kind of get perspective sometimes on how hard this life actually is. We've got all these beautiful joys and peaks in between. Those troughs are so deep.
yeah. It is kind of ebbs and flows. And like I always said to myself and to some other people as well, no matter how hard it is, or no matter what you're going through, like I think the whole mountain analogy as well, even though the Lions cricket team, it's a little achievement for them. They're sportsmen. Um, but it's about creating those little achievements every single day. So I'm a big believer in the first thing you must do when you get out of bed, you've had a coffee and all the rest, go make your bed. If you've got domestics, you've got 5 domestics, whatever it may be, make your own bed, because
Love that.
before you've had breakfast, you've achieved something. And it just, for me, it just sets the tone for a day. I'm a neat freak. Drive the missus absolutely insane.
I can tell. That's why I dressed to match your couch. You know, I didn't want one thing out of place.
I didn't see you there. Um, so climbing fatigue and exhaustion. How do you mentally keep going? And then also, how do you introduce those lessons of mental fatigue and exhaustion to your, let's call it normal life?
I've had some great people in my life, mentors in many different areas, and one of my favorite is Sibusisa Villani, first South African to summit Everest. And it was such a simple analogy, but it makes the most sense. You are an elastic band. And I like to think of it on one of those really old crummy hair elastics, you know, that you just find at the bottom of your sock drawer.
Yeah.
It's the one you've used 67
With the
times.
single sock.
Yes,
That
correct. A
one.
little bit of hair wrapped around it. The more you use it, the more lax it becomes.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. That's the benefit. Capacity is an elastic band. The more you stretch it, the more you use it, the bigger your capacity grows. And the best thing is that it doesn't snap if you keep stretching it consistently. And that's why if you can continually challenge yourself with new things, new experiences, new people, new friends, new places, and new hobbies, new studies, just grow that capacity all the time, because you will look back and something you cried about this time last year that made you fall apart. This year, you'll be like, okay, I got this. And you're doing something else over and above. And maybe that something else makes you crack. But you know that this time next year, you'll be even tougher and even stronger. And climbing is the same, because you'll actually, the escarpment is brutal. But on any really steep climb, if you feel that lactic acid building up in your legs and the absolute fatigue, and your body is screaming at you and saying, you can't keep going. And I think the worst thing about a climb physically is when you're on the climb, you can still see how far you are away from the summit. Sometimes you can't even see it, and it's like a fake summit and another fake summit, and it's soul destroying. You're like, I don't think I can do this. And the number of people that I've had with me on climbs collapse, sit down, cry, stop, and just like, I can't. Like Nicole, and I know they can, because I've been there and I'm average, you know, and I've had people who took me and they were normal. So it's having somebody that you can follow, I think, is really important, who knows that you can get there and believes in you. But then it's just flexing that muscle. Breathe, sit down, cry, fall apart, allow yourself, and then get back up and just keep going a little bit. And then do it all over again, as many times as you need to reach a summit, right?
You know, you've got into fitness racing recently, and maybe that's why fitness racing has become so popular, because no matter where you are in your race, there's people coming past you because there's people starting all the time. There's you going past people. It does mess with the mind a lot. There's individuals, there's partners, there's so many different aspects to it, but each of those are a separate mental challenge. You know, any fitness race, somewhere in the race, you're second guessing everything. Your decision to do it, why are you doing it? I know you're smiling in a lot of the photos, but that's because there's a camera on you. Everyone does it.
Not true.
No
Not
one has
true.
ever completed a fitness race, an endurance fitness race, and not second guessed why they're doing it.
Maybe I'm the exception to that rule.
I know you were dancing in the warm up area and
I love
stuffing
every
around.
single painful moment. And then maybe there's something broken in me that I love how hard it is. I might be the person who is in last. I might be the most broken. I mean, I couldn't walk for 2 days afterwards, but I smiled my whole way through that. Every minute I know I'm doing something that others can't do.
Mm.
I had a really cheesy approach, I suppose, to fundraising when I started my Mr. South Africa journey. Like, back then it was a cause. Now it's part of my DNA.
Mm.
Back then it was every breath for those who can't and every step for those who can't. Now it's like there's genuinely people out there who can't.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't expect everybody to have that. I really don't. It's just something that snapped in me that I can't unsnap. I interestingly enough had a conference that I attended and spoke at, and at the very end of the conference, one of the delegates had a massive heart attack. Nobody in the room knew what to do. No one was first aid trained, and because of my background, I started work. And I worked for 20 minutes on a guy in front of his wife, and I watched him depart from the world. It is the most harrowing but guaranteed experience
Mm.
in life. It is the one thing we cannot escape from. It is coming for all of us, and yet none of us are ever prepared for it. Take away faith, take away beliefs, all of that. You can say as much as you like, you are ready for that moment, but it is, it cracks your soul, right? And to watch your child grow up with the realization of their morbidity, you see the world as a different place.
Yeah.
The choices that she's made, the identity that she's developed, has all come from, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, and I don't know when I'm going to get sick, and I don't know what that future looks like. It changes everything, right?
It does. But I think in the same breath, like you said, we're all going to die. Moving, breathing's a privilege.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people take that for granted until it's too late. I mean, we see people, at High Rocks as an example, like an adaptive, but yet there's so many people that are able-bodied and do nothing with it, but they're going to regret it when their body lets them down, as an example. But it's not a lot of people know it about me, but basically, my dad died quite young, but I've been on heart medication since I was 18. So every year when you go for a checkup, you could be going in for open heart surgery
Yeah.
immediately. So it definitely is, talking about privilege, a lot of the reason why I've got back into sport, I've got into that stage where I want to see my kids grow up.
Mm.
I don't want my kids growing up without a father. So, yeah, I think the only guarantees in life are death and taxes. Nothing else really.
Right.
So I just want to jump back to Survivor here.
Yes.
So we'll jump around a lot. It makes it
I love it.
interesting.
It is great. My
So
mind does that naturally, by the way.
I, I think all of
In
us
case
do.
you didn't notice.
So I've got a question here. So on Survivor, the world watched you strategize and compete. What did you discover mentally and emotionally about yourself on that show?
I have never been asked a question like that. And thank you for asking it like that, because that was the greatest gift of Survivor. I discovered my raw edges and redefined what good and bad are for myself. It was such a gift of self awareness that you're a complete, whole, holistic being that is magnificently capable and cunningly devious at the same time.
But you have to be. The problem is if you're a good guy on the show, you're not going to make it. If you're too strong physically, you're going to get booted out early. If you are a threat, you will be.
Yeah, and I mean, I mentioned this before, but I had a very staunch religious Christian upbringing, and there was so much centered around good and bad, the importance of that on your identity, how that shapes your value system around a faith. And it was hard for me to take and separate the two, right, between faith and values. The values exist independently of whatever you believe. You can have your core values, but you can still have a whole identity around that. And I think one of the greatest lessons I walked away with is I love the game. I really love playing the game. And I don't think there's anything wrong with playing the game. In fact, we're all playing the game. So I use this analogy in sales training all the time with teams, that we're always selling. You could be a doctor, but if your clients and your patients don't like you, you've done a poor job of selling, right? You're
Yeah.
selling yourself as a doctor. You're selling your podcast. You know, we're selling all the time. And life is a game. Relationships are a game. Work is a game. And you're playing the game all the time, whether you like it or not. You just have to choose. You know, are you playing to win, or are you just going along for the ride?
Yeah, I actually saw someone write the other day, and I really liked it, and I won't mention who it is. Um, but he said something to the effect of, you know, in the sport, in a fitness racing sport, everyone, when you get to that sort of more elite level, everyone that start line is talented, and everyone's worked bloody hard to get there.
Yeah.
It's not about who wants it more on the day, it's who's going to take it. So you are literally, he said, there's only 3 steps in the podium. You have to take it from someone.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that dog eat dog world where, but I suppose your survivor journey, and I'm kind of piecing it all together, you are obviously very entrepreneurial. Your mind is, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
And a lot of that, I think, slowly but surely started to see the strategies coming out and kept pushing in a direction where you've moved, and you're kind of alluding to, we all a brand. We've got to be the best brand. And there you are with humans.
Yes.
So it kind of all ties together. So you basically head up all the brands for brands.
Yes.
Um, how do you separate Nicole, the brand, the powerhouse, from Nicole, who will be scared and overwhelmed in a situation behind closed doors if something goes wrong?
It's a really great question. I have great support. They, it's a very lonely position in leadership
Yeah.
if you allow yourself to be lonely. You don't realize how many people are out there in the same position that are desperate to connect, but then your leadership is desperate to support you. And
Yeah.
I have phenomenal global leadership, and I've learned how to manage those relationships and optimize them as much as managing a team of people, and to know that it's okay that you're not enough. You cannot physically be everything. And I've always been a good all rounder. I'm not the elite athlete at the fitness race.
Yeah.
I'll do it because I could do it, middle of the pack. Like I'm happy because there's a relatability in that I think is important. And it's the same in leadership. I don't want to be a rock star superstar that makes other people feel that they can't. I would rather any day of the week that somebody in my team looks at me and thinks, "Oh, great, she's real. If she can do it, then maybe I have a chance." Because they really do. If they keep focusing, keep working hard, have the right values, they've got a chance to do whatever they want and craft their career. If I'm not cultivating that attitude, then what am I doing?
Mm.
Why are we doing this? Do you think anybody gets into a job because they just want to stay in that job, in that one role for the rest of their life? No, they want growth, they want opportunity. And so I have to admit sometimes I don't know everything. And I think one of my greatest strengths would be surrounding myself with really great people and helping them build an environment to thrive. So, how do I help them lean into their strengths? How do I help them have people who can be as a backstop in their weaknesses?
Yeah. Like they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
It's really true because, every day, I always say, every day you're still learning. And I always encourage people to make the mistakes, fail forward. Because if you aren't making mistakes, you aren't pushing yourself.
It's such a great analogy. I use it with my kids all the time. When they do homework, they have a stuff up sheet next to them. And at the end of a homework session, whoever's got more on their stuff up sheet is the winner. It just means they scribble ideas, they write out spellings, they check things, they deliberately make mistakes so that they feel like it's normal. And when they actually do something wrong and they come and tell me, I like high five them because they're stuffed up.
Yeah.
We were taught, like, don't make a mistake, be perfect. And I mean, we've had other words, we call it stuff up, the stuff up wall, at work, but it's called something else.
Same as the jar that you put money in and you say
That
certain
one,
things,
yes,
that one.
we won't. But can we out loud just acknowledge our mistakes?
Yeah.
And hopefully you don't make the same mistake more than once or twice,
Because
right?
then it's your fault.
Yes. Yes.
It's all about learnings. And it's like my next question is, you ever felt the pressure to be strong when you weren't?
Every single day of my life. Every single day. I I'm grateful for, and I despise the brand that I've built because it's fun. It's an expression. I get to go out there and be crazy. I love it. And I get to do some cool things with some amazing brands every now
Yeah.
and then. But it's also created the illusion that I'm strong, and I'm really not. I'm resilient. I'm not going to give up. Are there days that I'll wake up and I don't feel like it? I want to hide? Frequently.
Mm.
Are there days where I doubt whether I'm enough for the role, for the job, for the relationship, for the challenge? Every single day. Every single day. And I think someone asked me recently, they said, "Are you afraid going up and speaking on stage?" And I said, the day you're not afraid, you should be really worried. And even if it's a small, just a little twinge, you've done it so much at second nature, but it has to be a twinge of that self-doubt that makes you say, am I really adding value? If you're not asking yourself that, you've reached a level of narcissism that is counterproductive.
So you
You-
plateau and there's complacency. It's no one's bigger than the game.
no.
So well, similar to what you just touched on now, you've built a lot of big businesses, you've run agencies, hosted a lot of luxury events and stuff like that. With high pressure and constant sort of KPIs, we're always pressure, deadlines, all the rest. What's your biggest mental health struggle?
Hmm. I think let's talk historically first, more than recently. And I've always been an optimistic realist, which has been a strength. I think that can often be a facade for what's going on underneath because everybody has a mind and a brain and neurons. And at some point, there has to be some deficiency or gap or need, even if it's not a physiological deficiency, that needs health, that needs attention. So historically, for me, I've always had uh, anxiety, I think, around certainly my performance from when I grew up, what I mentioned before. And I got stuck into some, I think, especially around COVID. You said eventing company. At the time, I'd bought a UK-based digital magazine to South Africa. It was a luxury magazine. I had a team. We were doing luxury events, and a digital magazine at that time existed because of the events, right? We're a very physical, tangible society in South Africa, even to this day. And we just hosted our biggest brand event with over 430 guests and 36 luxury brands. It was massive. Made the papers, had big radio stations broadcasting live, and then COVID hits. And I think COVID made me realize, I think, a lot of underlying anxieties that I'd faced before in the past, because I got stuck into what they call RNT, which is repetitive negative thought. And it can cause you to absolutely spiral into worst case scenarios and to overthink everything. And people make a joke of it now. And I think the disadvantage of having mental health information available on social media platforms is now everybody's an expert and we all know how to self-diagnose the world.
Yeah.
Whereas you might know a fraction of everything. And that's not enough. You need professional advice, you need proper research into these things, and you need to go through a whole process of discovering yourself through absolutely critical self-awareness that doesn't happen from just reading posts every night lying in bed. And I got counsel and guidance on how to best handle RNT, and it's actually really fascinating. Like it's pretty simple. There's a whole lot of toolkits you can develop to interrupt your own negative neural pathways. So if a neural pathway is overthinking or repetitive spiraling negative thought, simple things like distraction, exercise,
Mm.
comedy, making a joke when you're feeling anxious is one of the best things that you could possibly do. That's why I'm so funny
Probably
to
why I joke
myself.
a lot.
It's true. Like
Says me scratching nervously.
the whole mood lightens when,
Yeah.
and you just think, okay, perspective. It breaks a neural pathway that's self-destructive.
Well, they do usually say the funniest people are the saddest people, or the loneliest people, whatever it may be, especially comedians and all the rest. It definitely makes sense. But yeah, you touched on about tools. It's something that I bang on quite a lot about. I feel like there aren't enough tools. There's a lot of literature. There's a lot of doctors giving medicine and all the rest. People giving advice. If you want to give advice. We're just here to talk. But I don't feel there's enough tools out there
No.
to teach people what to do, how to do it, and how to go about things.
I wish there were more, but I also feel that tools are sometimes shortcuts. And what I've realized is that the shortcut in everything in life is always the longest route. If I had committed earlier to proper in-depth counseling with registered professionals, I would have had a shorter path to therapy and recovery. And that's why we have medical health professionals. I mean, I know this because I'm still a registered South African pharmacist, and I value our health professionals. And I think that there's also a lot of funds now that are supporting it. That's a tool. Our funds are developing payment plans, chronic access, uh, toolkits, I think, for you to be able to go and access these professionals without massive expense. But even if it is a massive expense, it is something that the state does provide on a good level. I used to work for the state, and I know some of these facilities available, but you're also able to prioritize things in your life. We don't prioritize mental health expenses. We don't. Am I wrong?
No, you push it. A lot of people say, I can't afford it.
Mm.
But what can you afford?
What is the cost of your life in
Well,
6 months' time? The
no,
fallout, what does that cost you?
your mental health, for me, your mental health, your physical health needs to be your number one priority. And I say it all the time. It's not your kids. Like I always say, your mental health, your physical health comes number one. Your work comes number two. Your kids come number three. They'll always be a number one
I agree.
priority. But if you're not healthy, you can't work. If you can't work, you can't provide. So where does it leave you
True.
as a family? So my
Mm.
next question is a follow-on of that. What does your family mean to you?
That is, I mean, okay. You would think that having a family, it sorts out your priorities. In fact, what I've found happens the most is having children. They become your world. They become your main priority. And in doing that, you lose the point completely. And I know that sounds harsh. I really, really do, because my kids are, I could, cuteness aggression, I could just squeeze them. If you place your kids, because I did it with my son when he was born, he became my excuse. People will say, oh, my first child was born, they became my world. No, my child became my excuse.
Yeah.
Because everything had to be about them, for them. And it's a beautiful
And
deflection,
then the
right?
cracks come everywhere.
But it's also all of those hopes and dreams and no, oh, my kid first. Let's be
Yeah.
practical. And that's where dreams go to die. That is where kids lose their own dreams. Because one day, in 5, 10, 15 years down the line, they're going to look up at you and think, oh, I better not dream big, because that's where I'm going. I want my kids to look at me and say, in fact, we say it. When they were little and they were going, I was leaving them behind to go and survive it. You know how hard that is? When I used to leave and go on mountain climbs, I actually remember I spent a Mother's Day on top of the escarpment with my friends. And I sat there and I thought, Mother's Day is for me. This is my day.
Yeah.
I birthed these children. Like, I've given them everything. I've given them life. I can have a day on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
And this guilt that comes with parenting and this deflection is crazy.
But parenting is a constant struggle with freedom. Then you're guilty. Then you're back and forth all the time. It is tough.
I love it. It's amazing. You're raising your best friends, really. I think if more parents could see through the lens of, I'm raising my best friend. I know my generation and me personally grew up with a lot of resentment towards the choices our parents made.
Yeah.
I know that they were doing the best at the time with what they had, but there was such a control over what they wanted you to become that it destroyed relationship. And I see people making the same mistake now, living vicariously through their kids, or
Yeah.
putting immense pressure on their kids. And ultimately, if I bumped into you, Cam, in the passage, and we just got chatting and I got to know you, I'd be like, oh, he's a pretty cool, decent guy. Like, cool, we should hang out. We could be mates. I want that with my kids. That means, oh, cool, you tell me that you're like deciding you want to move to India and you want to live in a monastery. Cool. Yeah, that's amazing. That's fascinating. We should have a coffee about that. I want to learn more about that. But do you think most parents would react like that? Oh, so how's this? This is how story time. My daughter comes to me 2 years ago now, and she says, Mom, why did you call me Tatum? I said, oh, I like the name. It's pretty. She says, I said, what, don't you like the name Tatum? And she says, not really, Mum. It just never felt like me. I said, well, listen, give me some, no, this is the relationship we have,
Yeah.
but give me a break here. Like, I didn't even know you when I named you. And she had a chuckle. We laughed about it. And she said, okay, I'll think about it. Left her. The next day she comes to me. She says, Mom, I've made a decision. I'd like you to call me, age of 7. I'd like you to call me Parker. I said, okay, cool. Sweet. Happy. Could be a phase, could be a thing. Who knows? To this day, her name is Parker. This is it. Everybody knows her. We walk into the doctor's rooms. Obviously, still medical records will say
Yeah.
Tatum. The doctor says, hello, Tatum. And she goes, sorry,
Okay.
there's no Tatum here. This is Parker. Like, that's so cool. And I think a lot of parents might have an absolute crisis if their child came to them and said, I'm changing my name. What does it matter? What really matters is that you've got kids who are kind, kids who make their bed when they get up in the morning, kids who are
No,
responsible.
they don't make their beds. I make their beds.
Oh.
No, but for me, it's you hit the nail on the head. Parents live vicariously through kids and all the rest. I've gone the exact opposite approach because I want my kids to make their own choices, and all parenting's completely different. Um, and my kids, I don't push them with anything. I say, if you want to try something, try it, but you see it through.
Yes.
That's the big thing. So I'm just trying to teach them certain life lessons, but it's all about also finding your center. Since I put myself first, I become the best version of me. I become a better dad, better
Yes.
businessman, better partner, better everything. So it is super important to put yourself first. Like you said, it's not, you hit the nail on the head, it's an excuse. Just to wrap up, what do you want your kids most to know you as in the future?
An adventurer, an expedition leader. And every day when I walk into my office, I'm not a general manager. I'm leading expeditions with brave adventurers. And every day we go and we discover new territories together. And every day throws us headwinds that we could never anticipate. And we navigate it together as a team. And my kids will tell me, I say to them, why does mommy go on adventures? And they say it in unison so that we believe we can go on brave adventures too. And they do. They have vision boards and dream boards all over their bedrooms, the places they want to go, how many Labradors they want to have, and the kind of life that they want to lead. And they only believe it's possible because I got out of my bed and I did it, and I will every day. And imperfectly so. And in fact, maybe it's a deliberate averageness. I know I alluded to that earlier. I could go and put my head down and go and try and fight my way to the podium of that deadly dozen, right? But I just want to be that normal person that other people can look at and say, okay, cool, it's not that bad. Just try more, do more, enjoy more, embrace more, adventure more. What have you got to lose?
Yeah,
You've got way more to lose by just hiding.
staying where you are. Next, thank you so much for joining us in the Blue Room,
Thank you, Cam.
and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
Me too. And I'm looking forward to watching the journey of the Blue Room. Thank you for telling such important stories. I think far greater than my own. I'm honored to be here.
Pleasure.